Welcome to the Car Guys and welcome to an update on my S600 Maybach. Many of you have been asking for an update on this car, so I thought since I'm on a long journey, I'm off to see a new car for the Car Guys garage, which you will know all about because this episode will be going out much later than that one. I thought now was the time to bring you up to speed on the ownership of this car. What is it like to own and run a £200,000 luxury German Uber barge? And it's also a chance for me to answer many of your questions about this car. Now, of course, in the pronunciation wars, there's still the question of whether it's a Maybach or a Maybach or a Maybach. I tend to flick between Maybach and Maybach. I'll try and use Maybach for consistency throughout this episode, but I might slip back occasionally, so don't shout at me. So what's it like to own Mercedes top of the range S-Class, the one they badge the Maybach? Remember, it's not a separate car now. It used to be, but now it just means the best of the best. And in this case, it is a luxuriously appointed S600 with the all-important luxury seating pack. So rather than having standard seats, you've got those mega luxurious first-class airline type seats in the back and tray tables. I've owned this car for just over a year. I know, time flies, doesn't it? And when I bought it, it was, I have to confess, quite an impulse buy. I was not looking to own a Maybach at the time. It just came along, it looked like a great deal. I just had to go for it, and I have not regretted it for 1 second. This is a fantastic vehicle, and I use it primarily for driving all around the UK on CarGuys business. It's not only a supreme luxury car to drive, it's also unbelievable to be in the back of, and it serves as quite a useful mobile office for the Car Guys. If we ever need to do an interview, we can just hop in the back. It's perfect for that role. First of all, I'll just give you an update on what it's been like to own this Leviathan. Many of you seem to think that it's ruinously expensive. It's not really. Many of you seem to think that it gives single-digit miles per gallon. It doesn't. Many of you seem to think it's going to be impossible to use every day because it's so enormous. Not true. This is one of my current daily drivers, so it's one of the cars I drive the most. I think I've done, let's have a look, in terms of miles, right, this car has now done 57,000 miles, and I think it had done 49,000 miles when I got it. Actually, considering the number of cars I've got, it's actually quite a lot. So far, the Maybach has been pretty much faultless. Nothing has gone wrong. It hasn't caused me any issues. It's not left me stranded anywhere. This car had its first main service this year, and that cost around about £1,100. And one thing that was highlighted was that 2 of the front suspension arms needed replacing. I had noticed that the car was riding a little bit less airy over bumps. It was a bit more crashy. That cost 900 quid to do. So Mercedes parts and parts for the Maybach are quite expensive. They're not crazy, they're not Lamborghini level, but they are quite a lot. There's only been one problem actually with this car, and that was actually caused by the main dealer. During that service, the dealer decided to bleed the brakes, and they didn't do it very well at all. In fact, they ballsed it up. What happened then is that there were obviously air bubbles in the system. As I drove away from the dealership, I had some alarming moments where the pedal almost dropped to the floor. Very scary when you're hustling a 2-ton plus car and you put your foot on the brakes and they don't really do anything. But apart from that, cattle grid, the car has been faultless. Not one warning light, not one issue. It just goes about its business of transporting me in absolute luxury without a murmur of complaint. And as I thread it down a very thin lane, is it a humongous car? Yes, of course it is. But I like that. I like the fact that it's massive. It's meant to be massive. Plus also, you have to remember, it's got so many sensors on this car that you've got to be a proper idiot to actually ding it or crash it, because there's beeps and buzzes all the time warning you of dangers around the car and proximity alerts. What I like about this car is you don't have to think about driving it. You don't have to prepare to drive it. You don't have to worry about the conditions before driving it, because it can cope with pretty much anything. It's got a heated steering wheel, which is a lovely thing to have when the weather comes in. It's got heated seats. It's insulated extremely well from the sounds outside. All I can hear is a bit of tyre roar from those mega wide tyres. And it's incredibly relaxing to be in the back of, because you can pretty much recline them to an almost sleeping position. Do people let you out of turnings? Not very often. So certainly as a long distance cruiser, there can be almost no equal. Of course, a Rolls-Royce will be better in overall refinement and luxury. Will it be as technologically advanced? Doubtful, because of course Mercedes use the S-Class to test the very latest equipment before they roll it down the range. Certainly this has been an awesome car to use every day. It's a very comfortable place to be. And that special ingredient that I always love in my cars, it's got that mysterious X factor, that mysterious element of cool. I just think the Maybach is infinitely more cool than just an S-Class. You see, this is what the Maybach likes to do more than anything. It loves to just pile on the miles on motorways or autobahns or autostradas. Straight bit of road, loves it. Corners, not quite so happy, but thanks to the air suspension, copes with it pretty well, and you can always knock it into the sport mode if you want to tense up the suspension a bit and therefore make it a bit more sporty. Let's have some beans, shall we? You see, the beans in a Maybach are a lot less dramatic than in most other cars. You get a surge of power, everything remains quite quiet, you see the needles moving about, the sensation of speed increases, but you don't feel it at all. That's why I don't tend to do many beans in this car. So now let's relax back in these wonderful cooled and heated seats that squeeze and hug you when you go around corners, and let's answer some of your questions that you put to us on Instagram and YouTube. First of all, one of the questions that you all want to know, if I sold this car, given the price that I paid for it, would I break even? No. No, I wouldn't. If I sold this car right now, I would make about £10,000 to £15,000 profit. Do you still daily it? Yes. As you can see, I'm doing it right now. It is the main daily car that I use, which of course means sadly that my E38 750 is not getting used much at all. What is the coolest feature? Well, I have to confess, I do get a little frisson of excitement every time the night vision comes on, and there's a little red square that highlights the object. That is really cool. Why would you spend the extra cash over a regular S-Class? Well, first of all, the extra luxury. If you're going to get an S-Class, you might as well go super bonkers and get the best, biggest one. It's all about the trim levels, it's all about the level of luxury, and also it's all about the fact that you've got a Maybach rather than just an S-Class. And for those of you in the know, or those of you who have an appreciation of automotive history, Maybach is a pretty historic brand. Can you hear the engine? Not really, no. You can hear tyre noise, but you can't really hear engine, not unless you properly rev it, which of course in a car like this, you never really do. It's very uncouth. That's why Mercedes' announcement that there will be a fully electric S-Class in the future doesn't really cause a problem for this car. It's silent anyway. Would you buy this car new or used? Used. I don't think individuals should ever try and buy one of these cars brand new. It is a guaranteed £100,000 hosing down. You are going to lose a fortune if you do that. The preferable strategy is to wait for a company to buy it brand new and then buy it, just like I did. Part of the allure of this particular car is that I am not feeling that kidney punch of depreciation. What is the most annoying part of this car? Without a shadow of a doubt, the most annoying thing is the proximity alerts that you get on the side to tell you that you're too close to the verge or to barriers. Doesn't sound like it should be annoying because of course it's a safety feature which is designed to help you keep your Maybach in one piece. They're a little bit sensitive, particularly on the near side, and that means that when you are coming up to a junction or when you have to stop in traffic, they beep constantly. Even though you're a foot or 2 feet, that one's quite annoying as well. That is the "you are a little bit too close to the car that you're pulling in on" alarm, and that is again quite sensitive, because even though you have fully passed the car, it still beeps and scares the crap out of you. Because if I'm stuck at a T-junction or traffic lights, I actually have to physically turn off the parking sensors just to stop myself going mad. And then of course you've got to remember to turn them back on, or you'll just smash into a barrier when you get home. Do you use it more than the Rolls-Royce? Yes. Sadly, yes. The Rolls-Royce is a beautiful machine that I do not want to put too many miles on. I want to keep it pristine. I use that for special occasions and special trips. What's your experience of aftercare of Mercedes main dealers? Well, I've only had one experience really, because it's just had one service, but it wasn't great. I asked them to give me a quote to refurb those alloy wheels, just make them perfect. Didn't bother doing that. When they did the big service, they bled the brakes and left air bubbles in them, which caused a dangerous lack of brake pedal pressure. When I picked up the car from service, one of the dust caps was missing off of one of the wheels. And then after the service, when it was clear that there was a couple of components that were needed to be ordered and get replaced on the front of this car, they didn't ever bother getting back to me. So I had to chase them to get my car booked in to have some components replaced. That wasn't very good. Do you get anyone asking you about the car when you stop to get out, say for getting fuel? No. This doesn't seem to be a very approachable car. People do come up to me when I'm in Porsches and Ferraris, and especially the Honda NSX, but not with this one. I think the S-Class is so ubiquitous and is so well known, and I don't think there are that many people that even vaguely notice that this is a Maybach version. So no one ever asks about it. Is it chaos, or is it cash? Or is it both? Or is it hell? Well, I'm not quite sure what any of that means, but I would have to say I think it's cash. It's cash. Whatever cash means, I think this is probably cash. Is it more comfortable than a Rolls-Royce? Not quite, but it is very close. Do you make Jason dress up and drive you around? No, I don't do that. Any downsides to owning a Maybach? To be honest, the only downside is how likely you are to puncture the tyres, which according to my experience is very likely. They're quite low profile, and they are of course massive, and I have had 4 punctures in this car in a year. Incredibly, all 4 wheels. And also another annoying thing with this car is if you plug in your phone charger cable, it will very often interrupt the Bluetooth and you can't listen to any podcasts anymore. That's really annoying. And there's no denying that the boot space is a major problem in this car. Because it's got the optional fridge, that takes up all the room. So every time you've got to go somewhere and you need to put bags of any size, you have to take the fridge out. That's a real pain in the arse. How often are you being driven as opposed to driving? Very, very rarely. I don't have a chauffeur. I don't have a driver, despite what I said about Jason just a minute ago. So therefore I'm mainly driving this car. I'm not in the back that often. I'm generally in the back more when I'm parked up and we're doing interviews or promo work. So very rarely am I actually sat in the back whilst being driven. But obviously I have done that, and it was quite superb. Does it waft better than a Rolls-Royce? Nothing wafts better than a Rolls-Royce. You should know that. Does it have a big butt? Yes. Yes, it has quite a big butt, but as was demonstrated in our chauffeur test of this car, you can't get that much in it. As Chris Harris said, do S-classes make you more relaxed when driving them? Yeah, do you know what? I think they do. I think when you get in this car, you are far more inclined to just waft along and not speed or overtake unnecessarily or rev the nuts off it. You tend to settle back into a sort of quasi-chauffeur mindset. You don't really want to take part in that whole rat race game. You want to just try and make the inputs as smooth as you can, try and make the journey as pleasurable for your passengers or for yourself. Actually, the game becomes how smooth can you be, not how fast. Would you miss the V12 if you had a V8? Yes. Yeah. I believe that cars like this, big cars, luxury saloons, the super wafty brigade, those cars should have the biggest possible engine that you can shoehorn under the bonnet. So for me, V12 is the only option. I know you can get smaller engines, I know you can get diesels, all those sort of things. To me, they're not real S-classes. You need to have a V12 for it to be a proper S-class and to be a proper Maybach. Josh Malin asks, what's the NPG like and how far can you go on a full tank of petrol? So let's find out. Well, I've just filled up the tank and it's saying just over 300 miles and the average fuel economy is 21 miles to the gallon. So actually, for something like this, that's not crazy. Thanks for watching this episode of a ownership update of the Mercedes S600 Maybach and your questions answered. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you found it useful. If you like what we're doing on the Car Guys, please subscribe, leave comments and likes on all the videos that you watch, and there will be another Car Guys episode along next week.